A day after finishing Sonic the Hedgehog 1, I decided to go straight into Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which was actually the first Sonic game that I had ever played. I had nothing but fond memories of this game going back into it, so needless to say, I was quite excited. Everything in this game is better. The music, the stages, the bosses, and the special stages are a blast. Once again, I played in Anniversary Mode and Sonic Origins because it remains the most accessible method for me to enjoy the game. This means I get the drop dash, which is very nice, though I can't recall using it more than twice during my playthrough. I hear that it's an amazing addition, but I'm still so used to not using it that I just don't think about using it unless I trigger it by accident. I chose to go into Sonic 2 with the iconic duo Sonic and Tails because that's what I did when I was younger, so let's get started. Emerald Hill is what I remembered it to be, a slightly better Green Hill. Considering Green Hill Zone was peak Sonic 1, this is a compliment of the highest caliber, and it's obvious that's exactly what the developers were going for. The first stage is the first impression and always has to knock it out of the park. Like before with my latest Sonic 1 playthrough, I tried to stick to the top path because I didn't bother when I was a kid. I took my time exploring and actually saw areas that I'd never seen before, like this checkpoint I found up here. In Sonic 2, the special stages appear at these checkpoints, if you have enough rings. Something interesting happened in this first stage. So I beat the special stage, got my Chaos Emerald, and continued through the level as one does. After getting hit off some BS before reaching the next checkpoint in the level, I didn't have enough rings to go into the special stage again, so I restarted the level. I didn't want to make the same mistake I did during my Sonic 1 playthrough where I didn't get all the Chaos Emeralds by the end of it. So I ended up playing the first special stage again, but I noticed that it looked a bit different. When the level was over, I ended up with 2 Chaos Emeralds. The game saved the first emerald, regardless of me restarting the stage. And you know what that means. It was time to exploit the game. I played and restarted Emerald Hill over and over again, playing the special stage until I ended up getting all 7 emeralds and could turn supersonic. I was never able to get supersonic as a kid, and now it was my chance. I didn't want the game to be too easy, however, so I didn't plan on using it every chance I got. Since the special stages won't be showing up at all after Emerald Hill because of this exploit, now would be a good time to go over them. First, I love the special stages in Sonic 2. They are fun, and it was really cool running on this half pipe. If memory serves correct, I could swear the special stages didn't run as smoothly as they do in Origins. I feel like that slowdown was necessary, especially in the later stages where I felt like I had to memorize the special stage to beat it, rather than use reaction time because there's a lot of stuff going on. There was always this little bit of enjoyment that came from seeing what the colors of the next special stage half pipe would look like. Playing all of the special stages back to back was a really fun experience. Anyway, the rest of Green Hill Zone was pretty standard fare. I enjoyed myself. I was finally able to fight the first Sonic boss I remember fighting, the one where he's in a car with a drill on the front. I didn't turn into Supersonic because it's an easy boss and I didn't need to go that far for it. I also didn't know how to turn into Supersonic, so that was a thing. It was here that I realized that each stage only has 2 acts, except for one. Chemical Plant Zone. I hadn't seen this zone since I was a child, is what I would say if I hadn't played it when Sonic Generations first came out. I also hear that it's in Sonic Mania and in Sonic Forces, both of which I haven't played as of this video's release. I have very fond memories of Chemical Plant. It's definitely a lot better than Marble Zone as a second stage. A passing thought I had when I was a kid was, I wonder what that blue stuff tastes like, though I'm pretty sure that it's deadly chemicals considering the name of the zone is Chemical Plant Zone. I liked how the pathways snaked between each other sometimes, and the music was absolutely bumpin'. Nowadays, I still hum the bass line sometimes. This was the first stage where I outran the camera as a kid, and that was my absolute favorite part. I felt so good and skilled at the game even though that part was a little automated. After beating Act 1, I decided that I was going to turn Supersonic at my first chance. The problem was, I don't know how to turn into Supersonic, but I had a bit of help.
No? Just double jump.
I did that when I had like 70 rings and it didn't count.
That's odd.
Yeah, it didn't work. I was doing it for like, see?
Press Y? There we go. It's triangle.
Is it jump and then triangle?
Yes.
Oh shoot, I died. Shut up! I didn't know. Now I know for future purposes.
No, you killed him instantly!
I didn't mean to, I promise! I didn't know! Obviously, I don't know how to control Supersonic very well. The next time I turned Supersonic, I ended up drowning. I'm underwater. Just fly out. Oh, I can't. I gotta be Miles. Oh, I don't like... That wasn't fun. I found that even with the added invincibility, I would still figure out a way to kill Supersonic by mistake. I'd like to blame the physics change because he's so much faster and more uncontrollable, but it just comes down to me needing to get good. I still ended up using it on the boss though, just to see what it would be like. I wasn't the biggest fan of the boss anyway. But I still died, so there's that. I died more than once actually. I was pretty pathetic. I don't like that boss. It's kind of annoying. Aquatic Ruin Zone. I was actually not looking forward to this stage. So much so that when it came up the first time, I ended my recording session right then and there. I hated water levels as a kid, and I distinctly remember not liking this stage for some reason. Probably because of the water. This time, however, since I was doing what I could to stay on the top path, I actually really liked this stage. Since I didn't explore as a kid and was only fixed on running as quickly as possible from one end of the stage to the other, taking the top path gave me newfound enjoyment. Since I was taking my time, I could even enjoy this bop of a level thing. They really stepped up their music game for Sonic 2, and it shows. By the end of it, the level felt almost too short. It was fun. The boss at the end was a little too easy though. Just standing on this pillar and jumping into him was a bit of a letdown. I know as a kid I felt so smart whenever I did that though, so this is just probably something that comes with maturity. Casino Night Zone was always one of my favorite levels in the game. The pinball flippers sort of reminded me of Spring Yard Zone. The whole thing being themed after pinball machines and casinos was a perfect design choice considering Sonic's ball physics. I remember playing in this slot machine and trying to get all of the different combinations of faces. I also remember that one time I played with the casino machines until time ran out, trying to get the maximum amount of rings. To this day, this stage remains really fun. In the first act, I did take the wild gamble of going super again and managed not to die this time. After all, there were no pits and there was no water, so I couldn't drown. I could only die by crushing, and I was paying extra attention to not let that happen. Supersonic's speed boost and Casino Night really meshed well together. In Act 2, I decided to go for a jackpot this time because I liked the slot machine minigame. After a while, I did end up getting it. I used that high ring count to turn Supersonic. Supersonic absolutely destroys the boss, so it felt good to be all powerful. Hilltop Zone. This stage contains another one of those bangers I was talking about. There's lava here, and I like how it looks a bit more than the lava from Marble Zone. I appreciate the more realistic look of Marble Zone's lava, but Hilltop's looks more like a wall of fire, and that's just cool. The seesaws make their return here, and I was really happy about that, both now and back when I was a kid. The lifts were cool, and though there are places where you stand on them to pass over lava, it's not nearly as painfully slow as the block mechanic was in Marble Zone. The stage had a nice amount of difficulty. I really liked the blue scheme of the mountains and inside the caverns. It was a nice color contrast with the fact that there was bright lava everywhere. The boss was fun too. I wanted to experience him without going supersonic because I didn't remember the mech all too well. I ended up losing my rings anyway when he hit me at the end, but I enjoyed fighting the boss. I wasn't gonna just supersonic my way through the game, but I did want my good ending. Mystic Cave Zone is yet another banger of a stage, but I used to hate this thing when I was younger. I loved the music, but since I would just run ahead with no regard to much of anything, I'd either get stuck or fall into pits because I didn't pull the little vine pulleys. The vegetation crusher spike things used to get me a lot too. I distinctly remember liking the bridges that collapse when you run across them, because Sonic was such a cool and fast hedgehog, something like that would never slow him down. For some reason, I also remember dying on a part where there were 3 boxes that swirled around each other. I think I got crushed, but however I did it, I didn't take that path this time around. As of writing this part of the script, I realized that this isn't like grass at all, it's probably stone. I didn't want to be bothered with the boss, so I immediately went super and just rammed into him until he blew up and died. It's Oil Ocean time, and this might be a bit of a hot take, but this isn't one of my favorite stages. Maybe it's the aesthetic or something, but I just don't enjoy this level. The music is great, one of my favorites in a game that's full of bops. In a vacuum, I love the mechanics too. The oil slide is kind of cool. They brought back the fans from Starlight Zone. They have the cannons like the ones from Kirby and Donkey Kong Country. But even with all of these mechanics, I guess I just don't like how they all interact with each other. Maybe it's the elevator lifts? Can't put my finger on it, but I did not enjoy Oil Ocean. Make no mistake, it's no Labyrinth Zone. I wasn't screaming and molding with anger. It just wasn't as great of a stage as all the ones that preceded it. The boss was interesting. I didn't remember it well though. After my shield pop, I decided to go supersonic so I could just be done with it. Not a bad stage, but it just wasn't my favorite. Metropolis Zone. This is the part of the game I would like to call the final stretch. As a kid, I think I made it this far only a handful of times, and I would usually game over in this stage. It has a real scrap brain feel to it, probably because of the industrial background and all that. I remember liking the screw mechanic a lot. As for the stage itself, it more or less gives the Scrap Brain Zone level of difficulty. By Act 2, I was so ready to get out of there that I turned into Supersonic in an attempt to rush to the end. The invincibility helped, but some of the platforming sections were precision platforming, and that went about as well as you'd expect. Even though this is the only zone with 3 acts, and the third act of the stage felt horrible to go through, it was nowhere near as annoying as Scrap Brain Zone Act 3. I found the exploding starfish enemies to be pretty annoying. Act 3 overstayed its welcome. The boss was pretty easy because I could just damage boost until it died. That's probably the case with all of the bosses, but with this one specifically, it seemed much easier to do. I liked the visual effect of the little egg balloons spinning around it though. I didn't understand where the opening was, but damage boosting worked. Sky Chase Zone is an auto-scroller level that feels more like an interactive cutscene showing the transition from Metropolis Zone to Wing Fortress Zone. It serves its purpose. There are some cute turtlebots here, but they die. Wing Fortress Zone is where it's at though. The idea of jumping from your plane to an airship is amazing, and the set piece looks phenomenal. You can see engines with flames coming out of them. I'm surprised they didn't burn me, but I'm glad they don't. There's turbines and fans, and it's just really cool. It feels like you're actually traversing inside and outside of an air fortress. I feel like Metropolis Zone was a bit harder than this one though. I don't have any comments about the boss because I just turned supersonic and slammed into it until it blew up. But afterwards, Sonic freaking grabs onto Eggman's getaway ship and rides out of the atmosphere into space. Don't know how he does that. The final zone of the game, Death Egg Zone, isn't really a stage as much as it is 2 bosses that you fight back to back. Now, when I was younger, I'd never beaten the first boss here, Mecha Sonic. I'd always get a game over and have to start over from the beginning, which usually resulted in me losing my patience and just not trying again. I remember never knowing how to hurt it as a kid. Every time I'd get to him, I'd just die instantly because I was hitting him either on his quills or when he rolled up. By that time, I only had like 1 or 2 lives left, so I didn't get the chance to learn from my mistakes before I game overed. But with Sonic Origins, I get infinite lives. I wonder how that played out.
He can jump! Are those really legs when you get down to it? He keeps beating my ass! I've died like 6 times. Jump! You are fucking... What was that? He jumps. You're doing it, my boy. Yay! I finally beat him. I don't know what happened. I had to figure out how to do the next part. I've never gotten this far, so... Get him! You're in for it. Oh, I've seen this on Sonic Generations. If this is anything like Generations. It's not. Well, how do I hurt him? Wow. Do I have to fight? What's his name again? Yes.
I found out if I die here, I have to fight Mecha Sonic again. It took a long time to figure out how to fight the Death Egg robot without getting hit once because 1 hit is dead. But eventually I blew it up too. Then Sonic runs down the Hall of the Death Egg, and then he jumps out of it and goes super and flies back down into the atmosphere, meeting up with Tails again. That concludes Sonic 2. I like Sonic 2. They figured out how they wanted Sonic to play, and it was amazingly executed. I can see why I never beat it as a kid, because those final 2 bosses were brutal. There wasn't really a chance to learn their patterns when you could get a game over back in the day. Right now, this is my favorite game of the original Sonic trilogy. I haven't beaten Sonic 3 and Knuckles before, but I did get pretty far, I think. I can see why people love Sonic 2 so much. The gameplay and controls are tight, unless you're supersonic, but that's by design. The music is good and memorable, and the stages are fun with a nice difficulty curve. Pretty good game, I must say.